Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. This is the road trip on DWTT. I am Gary. I called up these two guys, told them we got a show to go and do, and they said, "All right, I'll jump in and let's go." Sam, how are you doing? Welcome to the road trip.
Thank you very much for having me, as always, Gary. Nice to see you guys, and hope you are well.
Yep, and a late arrival. We were just pulling out the driveway, and I saw a hand waving. It was Mr. Tom. Was able to make the road trip today. He was a late arrival, but not. He's still going to bring it. How you doing, Mr. Tom?
Greetings to everyone, and greetings to all the Tom maniacs out there in the comment section. So
They'll be joining us. Hello, Stephen. Welcome to the show. And as we do here, we try to welcome everybody as they jump in. Welcome. You've got Ryan also in the chats. Ryan from Mr.
Tom's
Arsenal
the last. Tom's the last guy. He gets to jump on the last man in the road trip. Squeeze in the car and say, "Right, Tom,
I know
you're the last man, but you can join us. But on one condition: you're the one holding all the piss bottles."
Yep, and you know what? He has to pay for the gas. So there you
I've
go.
held a lot worse things. Don't worry.
We're not stopping, and we're not just dumping it on the side of the road. So yeah. For those that know, there is a game tonight, so I'll be on Mr. Arsenal podcast with Ryan, and I think Melvin actually is going to show up. We'll watch the game and see how the Everton game goes. And I'm hoping it's a lot more than what we saw last time, but it is preseason, but I do want more, so I'm greedy.
It'll be a load of crap with a bunch of players we don't want.
Well, I expect that for half the match, but I'm hoping it's the second half when the match is over. So, yeah, the big guns are here. If that means Mr. Tom, then you got it right. Sam's taking the big guns. And Alex has joined us. I was moderating for Alex earlier today. So welcome, Alex, to the show. Yeah, I guess the boss let you get away for a little bit. Hope you can join us. Yeah. So I was helping him out earlier. Yes. All right. So here we go. So let's get started here. It is Saturday over here in the US of A. And then 7 hours from now, Arsenal will be playing. But first news, yeah. Zinchenko sounds like he's going to be an Arsenal player. And what I'm noticing, I guess, with Arsenal's transfer business is either they have a former relationship, or they speak the language. That seems to be all we do. We have some relationship with a player, or they speak our language, right? Portuguese seems to be our language right now. So I don't know what that means for the future, because at some point you got to tap that resource and it's not going to be available to us. So, but we'll take Zinchenko, and I think the relationship with Arteta seemed to work out there, and just like the Tielemans deal, which could happen any time, it seems like the Zinchenko deal was just a matter of time before we decided to go ahead and pull the trigger on that one. So, Sam, how do you feel about the Zinchenko deal?
I think it's a good transfer, to be honest. I think he's a very good player. He's very versatile. He can be used in several positions, which is always good. I definitely like the price tag. I mean, I think we're talking about 35 million, which is a hell of a lot better than what they end up paying 70 million now for, or 65 to 70 million now for that.
Martinez, right?
Martinez now for Ajax, Manchester United, aren't they? And they overpay all the time, don't they? People talk about us overpaying. Bloody hell, Man United are the worst. Anyway, I think Zinchenko could be a smart little transfer, because he can cover at left back, left wing back. He can cover left wing, central midfield as well. He plays the attacking central midfield role for Ukraine very well. So it's great cover there, for Erdegaard and Vieira, whatever. I don't know exactly where he's planning on playing Vieira, but we've got good cover across the whole midfield there. It's only the right side of midfield at the moment now. We're still lacking a bit, but maybe in terms of cover. But yeah, overall, I'm very pleased with Zinchenko. The price is good, and he's a good player. And we're still going to hopefully see the best from him. He's still young enough. He can still, I think, improve maybe even a bit more. So yeah, I think it's a good deal.
Yeah, I think in the World Cup, was it World Cup qualifiers? I think it is. He showed up and he looked really good there. Everybody was praising him for his play for Ukraine. So hopefully that continues with us as well. We want to see the same. So, Mr. Tom, you got anything to say on Zinchenko?
Well, yes, it seems to be a sensible transfer. Good price, good player, suits a few of your needs. It's mainly echoing what Sam said, really. It's just it seems to have very little drawbacks on it compared to the pros of the transfer, and I imagine it's come about mainly based off of your head coach's time at that club, which is same with Jesus. Like that's why these players are willing to drop out of the Champions League for a year, is because they obviously have a relationship with your coach, and nothing wrong in that. It would be wrong to not tap into that.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think you're right there, Tom. And further to what Gary said earlier, the only thing is, and I've been saying this for a while. It's a little bit worrying because players we actually have pull with, we can get our players either have a personal relationship with from before, or they go through the Brazilian or Portuguese network, which both Arteta and especially Edu has a Brazilian and Portuguese network. So unless they're Portuguese or Brazilian or something to do with that type of either they come from Portugal or they come from Brazil or South America, that part of the world, and or they don't have a personal relationship with them, it's like that nothing's happening. We seem to struggle with anyone outside of those criteria, which is a bit of a shame, really, because we're going to need to be signing. I mean, we need to be signing players from other parts of the world than Brazil and Portugal.
Yeah, but to be fair to your club on this, and I try not to be fair to your club very often, but I will here. If you were to have a link or personal relationship, as we're calling it, with a club, you'd want it to be that club. Like, if you could have a pipeline to players, you'd want it to be Man City.
Oh yeah,
so
exactly.
It's not that
it's not a negative thing.
Yeah,
I'm trying to say that it's not a negative. That part of our, call it our transfer pool of what we can pull from. It's not negative per se. It's just saying that, but at some point we can't just keep going to Manchester City or the Portuguese League or South America. At some point we're going to have to get a player or two from another part of the world, and then it's unless they're a very young talent, that we can get through.
You're going to find a lot of players are coming out of Portugal though, because you get them at a fairer price than getting a player of similar ability from France or top 5 league. That's not exclusive to Arsenal. I think you're going to find that that's going to be a trend that a lot of clubs tap into in the near future.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. I'll just
same as like we're getting a lot of American players. Our pipeline sort of two things. We're obviously going to get the players that our coach knows from his coaching tree, from his time in the Red Bull organisation. But we're also getting the player, like our director of football, Victor Orr, is Spanish. So that's how we got Rodrigo, for example, was because he can literally speak to Rodrigo.
Yeah. Yep.
And a promoted club spending 30 million on, at the time, Spain's number 9 is absurd and it shouldn't happen, but it did. And it comes about because of who you have behind the scenes. So
yeah, of course, you've got to use your network, haven't you? Of course, just like I said, at some point, you can't use that network. You have to go somewhere else, and it's going to be a bit of a problem. But we'll see. We'll see if he has any pull outside of that network.
Cool.
Imagine if your network was Salford City, and you can get the best young talent from Salford. Like you'd be sitting there going, "I wish we knew someone at Man City."
yeah. I was saying it's not a bad thing, but at some point they're not going to be selling us everyone, are they?
Yeah.
No, but you can still get. You're going to get good deals. It will be easier for you to convince people. It's always easier to convince someone you actually know or have a prior relationship with to do something that probably doesn't immediately seem to be in their best interest.
Yeah, no, you're right there.
True. And let's just say hello to some more people who joined us in the chats, and of course we've got our man Why Not has joined us with his typical greeting. He's all about Arteta and Kroenke out always. Yeah. So welcome to the show. Why Not? Thanks for joining us again. Yeah, the dungeon is letting in a lot of light today. You can see the blue shades behind him.
Yeah.
You know.
You see my DVD collection. That's right.
We got some questions, and we'll get to that as soon as I go through the list here. Yeah, and as Why Not says, Leeds has that Leipzig, is that how you say it? Connection.
Leipzig.
Leipzig, sorry, connection. So they're
Yep.
using that. Craig, welcome to the show. It's good to have
Craig.
you on. Yeah. And what is this here?
So, can I answer?
Yeah, I'll go through
it
the
won't
questions
take
in
long.
just a bit. Yeah, I'll go through the questions in just a bit. So yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, and then everybody's saying their pleasantries here. So I'll go through the questions, so don't worry. I did star a couple of them, so we'll go through all the questions, and we'll get to, I think, the one that I think you're talking about. Is that the Marsh one you're thinking of?
Yeah, it's a very quick answer.
Okay.
Didn't Marsh used to manage RB Leipzig? The answer is yes, he did, and Red Bull Salzburg as well. So, and I could be wrong, might have also been New York Red Bulls, but basically he filtered his way up through there.
Yeah. No, I don't think he did.
He must
Red
get a
Bulls.
great discount on. Oh,
yeah,
but he must get great discount on energy drinks.
Does he have wings though?
Yeah, that's the question. Well, I guess we'll find out, because he's going to need wings, because he's got a lot of work to do. You can't lose the players you did and not continue on. So let's go through some of the questions real quick, and then we'll continue on. So this one's from Alex here. Is Arteta buying to secure top 4 or buying to win the Premier League? It's got to be win the Premier League, and that's by doing that you're going to get top 4 indirectly. So for me, it's always the goal is
to win it. Yeah.
So
it struck me as a bit like, because top 4 was such a big thing to all the Arsenal community. Like, even like January, you're like, we need to reinforce to make sure we get top 4. So we does this. I go, we go win the Premier League. I'm like, you worry about the top 4, lads. Don't worry. I'm not being too judgmental. I'm worrying about the top 17. So,
I always say in the
17.
phrase. Yeah, the phrase I always say is, you shoot for the stars, land on the moon. Basically, the stars are your Premier League. If you make it to the moon, then at least you got out the atmosphere, right? And that's a top 4 finish. But at the end of the day,
you got to aim to win it.
Yeah,
you got
unless you're the challenger in 1986.
Damn.
Oh, even I know that's a spicy reference.
I know. Jeez.
35 years ago. It's not too soon, is it?
I only know of that from the show Glow on Netflix.
So, there you go. I mean, where were you when that happened? I was in school, right? They brought the TVs in for all of us to see it go up, right? Teachers going up into space, and for those who know, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it was back to maths.
Yeah, and Why Not has an answer to that, right? Buying to buy time as they develop. That ship has passed for me. They had that in the first year. No, it's time to perform now.
Time is a very profitable thing.
Yeah, I'm not happy with the pace. I mean, the planning behind this, in terms of, there's 2-3 more players we need, and they should be there now with the team in America getting ready for the season. It starts in 3 weeks. Zinchenko, if everything's true about that, he's going to join the squad when they come back from America. It's not going to be much time for him to prepare. It's not good enough. I mean, you got to get these players in. You got to go and do your job. And we seem to just mess around so much in the transfer market with players, backwards and forwards. Oh, do we want this? Do we want that? Oh, 5 million there, 5 million here. It just get the fucking job done, and just get the players in and get it done. If you got to pay an extra 10 million, extra 15 million, that is the price of doing business properly. That's the thing. I just can't get my head around why we're always dragging our feet every summer. Every summer, we're just going until the last day of the transfer window, still lacking, several players normally. It's just not right, So there's no more excuses. There's no more excuses because how many windows? This is what his 6th or 7th transfer window now. Sorry, you can't have 6 or 7 transfer windows, and we're still waiting for the next transfer window. Okay, what about the last 6? Come on. At some point, you got to realize it's not a process. It's called football. This is what football is like. Players go, players come. You have to buy replacements. That is the way football works. And to try and package everything into some PR, propaganda that was, it's all a process when it's clearly just them not being able to do their job properly. I mean, like in January, they couldn't buy anyone. They went for 2 targets they couldn't get, and for some unknown reason they couldn't get anyone else in January. I don't care if January is a more difficult window. You can still go and buy players in January. We've done it. Other clubs do it. It's still possible to do it. You just got to plan it and do it right. And then, in the summer, we, got all these players out and everything in the summer before, got all these players out, blah, blah. We still got 3 or 4 of them there, by the way. We still got Bellerin. We still got Xhaka. We still got Reece Nelson. We still got these players that, shouldn't even be there with the squad. It's, I don't know. It's just, it gets to a point where it's not, no, you can't say it's the process anymore. It's just these guys are not up to the job. It's as simple as that. And we have to see now if they're going to still do a job now this coming season, or whether it's still going to be the same. I don't know. It's not looking great anyway in terms of how we do our transfers.
Yeah, and I was on the show with Alex, and I was saying to him, Zinchenko should be on his way to Orlando tomorrow. Yeah. There's no reason. Like, supposedly they're held up on personal terms. They just supposedly got a really good deal on Jesus, a good deal on Zinchenko. So they're saving money on 2 of their top players coming in. The any personal fees or whatever their discussions they're having should be done already, right? Sign the man, get him on a plane to Orlando. And reason why I want him there is because he needs to, hang out with his teammates as soon as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
They've got 2 games coming up. He can be there in the, on the sidelines for the first one, and maybe he'll play in the last one, and then we move, right? Then we can work on our next player. Because I still think, some people said we need 3 more players. I say 2 is fine. I'll be fine with 2, but 3 would be really nice. But I think they still got at least one more player they have to get. If he's a midfielder, then Tierney still needs a little help, right? He needs a little push. He needs somebody to push him, I think. So I don't know how you guys feel about that. But I say he should be signed. If they're at this point where it's just personal terms, it should be done, right?
Yeah.
No, he's not going to say no to whatever you offer him. So give him the money and let's move on. What is this? What is the amount of players Arsenal needs to buy, and how many players still to go? Oh, I didn't look at the question when I answered. But for me, I would like to see 2 more, but I think 1 more is probably going to be the max, and because of the way that we do our business. I'll start with you, Mr. Tom. I know we're talking a lot of Arsenal. We'll get to the Leeds talk in a little bit, but if you're looking at Arsenal, which you always are, don't kid yourself. Don't kid anybody. We know you are following the Arsenal Twitter and Arsenal.
How can you sit on the internet and not see Arsenal? It's everywhere. It's usually exposing you as a banter club, but how can you avoid it in general? I mean, I'd had to block a lot of people to avoid Arsenal on Twitter. Because you can't even, because if people like stuff, it appears on your thing now. So you have to get super creative to be like, I'll block that person won't be able to. It's like to fuck us, I don't care. You'll hide some of the porn. What?
You're right.
Because then if other people see you, if other people they see you on Twitter and you're scrolling, you're like, oh no, are they going to cap all the porn accounts off? Oh no, because it'd be worse. They'll see the follow Arsenal stuff. Or Tottenham.
Oh, we don't say that name, right? We don't say that name. So we'll move on. So Sam, As far as any future players to bring in, do you have a number and I guess who or what?
For me, I think we need to bring in maybe cover at right back. I think we need to bring in a right winger who can come in and rotate a bit with Saka, give him some pressure. And so that's two, and we definitely need a more versatile, forward-thinking number 8 in the middle who can replace Xhaka. So yeah, like a Tielemans. I want Tielemans. He seems to be good. Yeah, so that's 3 players ideally that we still need. That's going on that Zinchenko is going to come now. We don't know 100%, but I'm going to say okay, he's coming. So apart from Zinchenko, I'd say 3 more, which is okay. Ideally, I'd want 4 more because ideally I'd like another striker, really, to put a bit more pressure on Jesus. But Nketiah, I think. I know I'm probably putting myself out a bit here, sticking my neck on the line a bit, but I know Tom likes Nketiah. But I think from what I've been seeing the last few games of the season and stuff, I don't mind giving Nketiah that chance as backup for Jesus to come in, get the last 10, 20 minutes and play in the cup games, play in the early stages of the Europa League. I don't mind Nketiah to get that chance now because I think he has improved. I'm not saying he's great. I'm not saying he's, the new, whatever, but he definitely has improved. And for that, he deserves, another look in. So, okay, I don't really need that extra striker, but it's going to be 3 players for me. I would say, yeah. Besides Zinchenko, I want that midfielder, that number 8, want a right winger, right-sided attacker to help take some pressure off and put some competition, of course, in with Saka, and yeah, ideally a right back who can, deputize Tomiyasu.
Cool. No, I mean, like I said, I think that what you're saying there is kind of where we are, and I always said we are 10 players away from where we need to be, and that probably gets us to that number, because right, we've got 5 players now or 6, I can't remember, but we are, that would get us closer to that number. Plus, we've got 10 players that need to go. So,
yeah,
we'll see.
Need to go.
Yeah. So we'll go into those 10 players, but the Assembled has joined us. Welcome to the show. Let's just say evening, Alex. It's ridiculous. Every time Arsenal appears to be going forward, they immediately do something to counteract the positive they've done. Oh, well, maybe I missed something. What do they do negatively now? Because Zinchenko's a plus, right? So I don't know. Yeah. This is the question that everybody's been asking, and we'll get to that one in a little bit, but yeah,
that's absurd.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's not a bad baseline to have, right? Yeah. Bark is cooking the books. No, they have a money tree, man. I said it already online. It's got to be true.
Not cooking them. They've
just print it out on the
flamethrower. They put their flamethrower to the books, and they were just like, "We're going to roast these books until no one can actually see how much we've fiddled them."
Yeah.
Then just go to the printer and print out some money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it took a month. They had to print out 50 million in Barcelona.
It took a long time on those printers.
Yeah, I can't see them selling any of those players last minute. That just doesn't make any sense.
No, this is all bullshit.
I don't see that.
They're not going to get rid of the players that are the core of the team.
He doesn't fit the current culture. What is the current culture? Because I thought it was young, talented players.
Saliba's not going to be sold. We just brought him. We haven't brought him back from Marseille when we could have sold him to Marseille, for fuck's sake. I mean, it makes no sense.
That sentence from Why Not? I don't want to speak for him, but the way that sentence reads to me is that Why Not believes that the current culture of the club is losing.
Well, you know what? The reason why that comes up, right, is because Bellerin said that Alexis Sanchez wanted to win too much, and that's why. Right? Is it? Yeah. He wanted to win too much because he practiced hard. I always say you practice the way you play. So for me, I don't think they practice the way they play. I think they try to turn it on, and I don't think any athlete can turn it on. You got to go 100% in practice. I mean, that's why I kind of, to some degree, like Tierney, the way he practices. He practices the way he plays, right? He doesn't wear sweats and hoodies and long pants when he practices, because guess what? That's not the way he plays. I know
The
he's
thing
from,
with that sentence,
yeah.
the thing with that sentence, and you're not wrong, but the thing that's fascinating about it is practicing how you play got us promoted, but it equally got us relegated because of the injuries that practicing to that intensity actually caused.
There are degrees to it, though, right? I mean, because you're going to play a certain style, but if you never practice it, how in the world do you just turn it on? You know, nobody does that. You're talking about the level of extreme that you, not necessarily the level, but are you playing it and pushing the body too much? And that's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking mentally, to where the players get out on the pitch, they don't have to think anymore, right? For me, I think a good manager, gives you all the answers to the test and additional questions that could be asked, and then here are all the answers for that as well. You get on the pitch, and all he does is sit back there and watch you, and then something new comes up on the pitch, and guess what? You already heard the answer before. So it's not like you don't have to wait to you just respond to whatever the defense gives you, the offense gives you, and then you go with it. That's what I feel like athletes do instinctively without having to be told. They just seen it. They've seen it before. They've heard it before. All right, and that's kind of how I believe. I don't think our players are coached that way. All right, because as soon as somebody puts in a low block, for some reason we can't play. As soon as we score or the other team scores, we change things around, and it's like, no, that's not the way most people play football. All right, you score a goal, you want to score another one because you want to put this thing, finish this game off. For some reason, we do the exact opposite than what we're supposed to, and that's, for me, ingrained into the culture. That's part of the culture that needs to change. Yeah. No, I hear you, Alex, on this one. I just, like I said, that's what I believe should happen. We closed Vieira in 12 hours, so I know it can be done. This started last night. Supposedly, City is good with the money. So then the player is ready. He's ready. He wants to come. So move on.
How long are you in America for? Like, when are you coming back?
Till next Sunday. We play a game on Wednesday and a game on Sunday. So if he left tomorrow, he would be there.
No, I wouldn't send him. No, I wouldn't send him there. No.
That's just me, because I kind of feel like
Arteta. Yeah, but if it was 2 weeks to a month, like you were doing an actual world tour type thing, yeah, get him out there with her for the reasons you said. But if you're talking like a week, no, just get him back at your training base and make sure that he's like at a level fitness so that he can actually get stuck in with the training when they back.
Yeah, it's two sides. Yeah, because you're looking at the physical. I'm kind of looking at the whole team camaraderie thing that goes along with it as well.
Because otherwise, you're basically putting him on a plane equivalent of like a day, just so he can hang out with the people he'd be hanging out with for the next year anyway.
True. I don't know. Mentally, I think it works, but you might be right on that one. John has joined us. Welcome.
Yeah, John.
Did they do anything? They haven't done anything recently. They've just been playing football, right? They've got who they wanted. Yeah. They assembled as a question, Does anyone trust this process after selling one of our future prospects? I don't think we didn't sell him.
He was a good talent, but how close was he to the first team? Let's be honest. I mean, yes, I would rather have kept him. I wouldn't have sold him, but with us looking at a right side midfield coming in, we've already got Saka. We've already got players who can play out there. It's you still got Pepe. You need to get rid of Pepe first as well. To be honest, Pepe is ahead of him. So, I can understand why Hutchins has wanted to move on now, because he probably wants to progress his career and actually start playing first team football. Not that he's going to get that at Chelsea, so he's going to go to under 23. So I think it's maybe him just probably wanting money. Probably that's what I think, because he's probably gone, oh, Nketiah's getting 100k a week. I want something like that. And I think they've said, what? You want 100k a week? No, you're not getting that. So he's probably going to just go to Chelsea and get more money and disappear. Yeah. Probably. I don't know.
I have a take on this Hutchinson lad. I could be wrong here, but I think people are exaggerating how close he actually was to the first team, because the first I've ever heard of Omari Hutchinson in my entire life is when it came out that he had joined Chelsea.
Yeah, for you guys not following the club, yeah.
So I'd never heard one Arsenal fan, and we've already established I'm surrounded by it, so I would have seen it if it was true. Not one Arsenal fan mentioned this lad was even within a stone's throw of the first team. But now he's a disaster.
No, he was a level, I would say, behind like a Flores and a Patino and a Norton Cuffey in terms of, for me anyways, presence in the academy and where. But we always were like, well, hopefully he gets a chance, Patino. Right? Yeah, but he would be like below Patino, but we always thought he would be next in line coming in, because we definitely enjoyed seeing him play. If you listen to it's definitely the anybody who follows the Hale End kids and stuff like that. So well, definitely,
he's obviously not. Yeah. He's obviously not terrible, because Chelsea have obviously gone, do you fancy coming here to play football? Like, so there's obviously something to him. But I think the reaction as if this is an absolute disaster, I think is a bit exaggerated and misplaced.
Yeah, you're right, because he wasn't very close to starting in the first team. He's been in a few squads due to our lack of depth. But in terms of, he plays mainly on the right side of midfield as an attacking winger, midfielder, if you will. And he's had Saka ahead of him, Pepe ahead of him. I would say even likes of Smith Rowe ahead of him, can play out there. He's ahead of him. Those three players would be playing before him in the team. So, I can understand why he wants to maybe go to pastures new. But again, I think it's mainly for the money. I think he's coming up for maybe he's got like 2 years left of his contract or whatever, and it was time for him to try and renegotiate a contract. And he's obviously chosen Chelsea, who want to pay him more. So he's going to go to their under-23s, though. He's not going to their first team. So he's going to exactly the same type of setup as he saw at Arsenal. He's just going to make more money now. And he probably will disappear, because this happens to so many of these kids who get to this level. They're supposed to be quite decent and everything. And then they get to a level where it's okay, you're going to be a part of the first team or not. And then they just piss off to go somewhere else, and they just disappear. You never see them again.
These academies are so expensive to run that even if you get one or two players in, maybe I'm exaggerating when I say 5-year span, but if you get one or two players come through out of that academy in sort of 2, 3, 4, 5 years, that justifies all the expense. And more so I'd say not a club at Arsenal's level, say at my club's level, if you can then take one of those players. Best example, Calvin Phillips came out of that academy and netted us 40 million.
Yeah.
But that now pays for that academy. Really, it's going to pay for players, but it justifies why we have that academy as an expense.
Yeah, and this is the concern. This is why some people are up in arms, because it is a potentially good player coming, and Arsenal's getting nothing for him after developing him. Right? He's 18 or whatever, and they didn't want to spend the money. Like, I find it weird that they don't want to spend the money on him, but they spent it on Holding. They spent it on Xhaka. Who else did they spent money on just to secure their value? Well, this is a young player who's got value, right?
The thing is, we don't know exactly how good he really is. That's the thing. I mean, we've heard good things about him. He's done some good things for the under-23s, but the under-23 level is poor. It's a poor level. If you're shining at under-23 level, yeah, okay, you're a decent player, but it doesn't mean you're still good enough for the Premier League. It's a long, long, long way from the under-23s up to the first team level. And this Omari Hutchinson, I think he looked like a good player, in terms of talent and everything, but how close or good enough was he really in terms of actually starting games in the Premier League? I don't think he was good enough. I think, they said, okay, if you want to go, you go. I don't think that if he really was this good and, as people make him out to be, then I think they would have tried and kept him like they've done with other players, So I think it says a lot, really, and probably maybe something with his attitude as well. If he said, oh, well, Nketiah is getting 100K or this guy's getting that, let's get that, and I want the same, then they're just going to say, well, sorry, you can't be realistic. You haven't done the same. You haven't performed the same. and he's still holding out for that kind of money, then then it becomes a different thing, doesn't it? It becomes more of an attitude thing and personality thing. So that becomes a whole different thing. But yeah, no, it's and when it comes to Chelsea and the way they develop players, don't get me started. I mean, a lot of players go to Chelsea and just die a death, and then they buy players for a lot of money and end up selling them for nothing or next to nothing. Chelsea aren't that good at developing talent as people think they are.
Before you go, Tom, just want to say hello. Dwtt has joined us, and I see you having a lot of chat in the chat room. Thank you for that. We like to see that back and forth.
I love it. Keep doing it.
Yeah.
Sorry, no. I've what Sam's saying about Chelsea. Chelsea are the reason they're changing the rules on loans. Like FIFA are changing the rules because of Chelsea and Atalanta, I believe, in Italy, where basically they're making profit on players that have never played for the first team. Like they're selling players for like £14 million, £20 million, because they've been getting a loan experience. They've gone on like funds, but to increasingly better clubs. I mean, it's genius. I'm not disputing this, but it's against the spirit of our sport.
Yeah.
To basically be like, you're not good enough to play for us, but we're going to prove you are good enough that someone will want to pay £20 million for you. It's absurd.
Well, Arsenal's done the same thing with some players. Yes, the idea is you buying some players, you're getting some players for nothing, who are talented, or they're free agents, things like that. You get them for nothing, and then you develop them for a couple of years, loan them somewhere half decent. They play half decent, and then you sell them on for 10, 20 million or whatever. 10 million is a decent profit from nothing, and you generate a bit of money. We've actually done that at Arsenal. We tried to do Arsenal. We've got a few players in on free transfer. I think it was a couple of seasons ago. We got a few these youngsters in who are on free who are free transfers. From like one was from Tottenham, I think. We got another couple free transfers, and the idea is to do the same. I think we're gonna send them out on loan and see if we can develop to try and get some money out of them. I think it seems to be an extra way for clubs to earn money, like you say. But now if UEFA and FIFA or whatever are going to go in and change the rules now, then I suppose there's a good reason for that.
They're basically decreasing, it's like 9 now. I'm not 100% correct on this, but it's like 9, and next year it's going to be 8. But eventually they're going to get it down to where you can only loan out 6 players and loan in 6 players.
Yeah.
Which for most teams is probably what they do anyway. Yeah. But Chelsea, it's going to completely change how they run their club, because they probably have 20 players out on loan at any one time.
Well, remember, Italy's always been a bit like that, because in Italy, again, I haven't followed Italian football for a long time, so I could be wrong on this. But I don't know if it's still like that. But I remember like several years ago, Italy doesn't have like a reserve league, like a reserve team league or an under-23 league. So what happens is when you have these younger players who come through the academy, they play up to like an under-18 level, like a youth level, and then there's nothing in between youth and like senior level. So what happens is all these young players coming through, they just loan them out. So you got a squad of 50 young players, all of them are out on loan, 50 players out on loan in different places. And some of them are obviously going to develop and get some value, aren't they? Probably.
Yeah, Atlanta had about 65 players out on loan last season.
Yeah, that's what happens when you don't have a reserve
number
league.
Wrong.
They should but I remember it was like that with Italian football for a long time. They would have, because the players who got to 18 or above 18 who they didn't want to get rid of, they would loan out all of a sudden, and then you'd have like 40 players on loan who had just come through the youth system, and it was a bit of a mess, wasn't it? And I suppose that's what it's like when you don't have a reserve league, and that's what they should have. They should have a reserve league. I think in the Premier League now there should be a proper reserve league like there was a few years ago. We actually have the Arsenal reserves or the Leeds reserves or whatever, and you actually make something out of it. You actually try and make it a bit competitive. So that players don't look at it. Oh, I just got to go there. I just got to go down there now to, I don't know, Scunthorpe and play some bunch of shit down there. You actually have to play. Say the Premier League is, the the Premier League teams that, or you play the Premier League reserve teams. The way it is set up within the league, you just play the other team's reserves. It should be set up a lot more like that, so it's more competitive.
Yeah, I was just going to ask.
Yeah. Why not? We're saying that doesn't happen in Italy.
Okay.
Because it doesn't.
Yeah.
Like the system in England is not perfect, but it's a lot better. There is at least a system.
True.
To give them games.
Yeah. It is a system
the way
more competition.
Yeah. The way I would put this, though, and this is total hyperbole to take with a grain of salt, but if we weren't talking about something with football as the sport, but we were discussing what is essentially it's farming teenagers for profit, essentially. But if it wasn't football, it would be illegal. It'd be trafficking. That, admittedly, like I said, take with a pinch of salt, but take away the football and you're essentially holding kids to sell on for profit.
Yeah.
I hear that, and then it's like, but then the academies are, they're supposed to do more than just football, right? These kids, I believe they learn. They have study time. They have the academy side of it too, right? It's not just about football skills, but also about skills that they can use when they get out there in the real world. I assume in terms of reading, writing, and all that stuff, right? So it's yes and no. Yes, it is indirectly looking like that, but it is a way to get the kids involved. Like at least in the States, right? We don't have these academies like you guys have, right? Most of the time you just do the rec leagues. So what you guys call like a Sunday league. So the players, a lot of the kids when they're growing up, they just play in the rec leagues, right? They play in the county or city, and then it starts to get bigger, and they play in bigger, maybe statewide and then international wide type leagues as well. So not international, but countrywide. So it gets like that. AA is like the basketball, but as big as it gets in basketball in terms of players. And then it's college is really where college is doing they're helping out these professional leagues, right? Because a lot of kids will go to college and then play, and then from there, then they move on to the pros. For football, as you guys call it, there isn't, there's not that many schools that do that. I think as big as they can. That's why it's probably easier. If you're an American and you're really good at football, you probably want to go overseas immediately, right? That's where you're going to get better set up to play in the sport.
A lot of Americans go to Germany.
Yeah.
Like I say a lot. That's not true. I've made it sound like thousands of Americans go to Germany, but there's been a good few, like Pulisic. I think Claudio Reyna's son also went there. Yeah. But basically, they go like Borussia Dortmund are very historically recent history. Very good at actually. If you go there, they will play you. Like if they tell you they're going to develop you, you will play Bundesliga matches for the most part. And there's no big secret behind it. They are doing it to farm you for profit. Yeah. But you're still being farmed at the highest level in that league by them giving you game time. So it's different to Chelsea being like, we're not going to play you, but we're still going to make 10 million on you potentially.
Look at the Red Bull setup. I mean, it's brilliant. The Red Bull setup in Germany. You go from Salzburg to Leipzig. That's the talents go up a level up to Leipzig in the Bundesliga. And from there, if they do well, great. They help Leipzig, and then they get to a level. Unfortunately, Bundesliga is like that where Bayern Munich just do what they want. They just buy everyone. They just buy everyone they want, however they want. And the other players just play. The other teams just lay dead and just let them do what they want.
So I tell you, the strength of the Premier League, like basically Borussia Dortmund wanted to buy a player from Red Bull Salzburg. They had a deal agreed, and then Leeds United, of all teams, who finished 17th in the Premier League, went, "Do you fancy coming to play for us?" And he went, "Yeah, actually, I'd rather go play for the team that finished 17th in the Premier League than play for the team that finished second in Germany. It's ridiculous. I'm glad it happened, but on the surface, it's absurd that we managed to convince him. And I know it's partly because our coach, Matt, coached him in Austria. Like, not under no, that would not have happened had it not been Jesse Marsch, obviously. But the fact that our one advantage in the transfer market, as silly as this sounds, other than the fact it's to come play in the Premier League, is we now get to turn around to young players. I don't want to say young as in like 16. I mean, like, say you're 21-year-olds that are established elsewhere. We get to turn around to them and go, do you fancy coming to play for us? No one had heard of Rafinha 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And we just sold him for 50 million quid. He was the player everyone wanted this summer.
Yeah.
Do you want to potentially be that person in 2025? Or 2024?
The only issue I have with that one is who's the one that got them there? Is that Bielsa? I know you're going to say it's Leeds, but it's probably, is that Bielsa helping put that player out there? Or is, you know what I mean?
It's a lot of both, I would imagine. Like, we provide the platform. We obviously got Rafinha because he saw a style of football where we convinced him, come here, use us as a stepping stone, but we are going to play a style of football that makes you look very good if you can keep up to it, essentially.
Yep.
You stop. Yeah, okay.
With Bielsa, we played a style of with Bielsa we played a style of football where basically, if you like attacking, which I imagine a lot of footballers like going forward, you are going to get the opportunity to look like a good footballer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm going to go through some of these.
The style that suited him as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. His style, Jesse Marsch's style, suits him a lot less because Jesse Marsch plays through the middle of the pitch. Bielsa's the opposite. Bielsa's like, I want you to get as close as possible to the touchline without actually going over the touchline.
Yeah.
Because then that puts it in Bielsa's mind, that stretches the other team's defence out. So then you could switch the ball across and go through.
Yeah,
I mean that seems easy, right? That's like the easy part, right? Usually you crowd the middle, you got no space, you can't make a pass, you get crowded out. So it's like, you know, how best to give your players space in the box, but to bring the ball out wide.
Something Bielsa once said, and it's genuinely true, is that if footballers were robots, his style of football would win every time.
Yeah.
But footballers are not robots.
No.
So his style of football, while it should be the best style of football, it should be the style of football that everyone aspires to play. But not all humans can do it.
No. It's difficult to keep it up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go through some of these comments, and I'll try to jump over some of them. Not necessarily because I there's a lot we can talk about, but go ahead.
I'm still thinking about 20 years' time, I'm going to sit somewhere, probably on the internet, and be like, I love Bielsa. I love what Bielsa did for those 4 years. Like, I could just see it. I could see it, and I'm just going to be like, because I know you talk about Arsene Wenger a bit differently now, in the sense that, because obviously you had a lot of years where it was declining. But it equally could be argued that he was holding you up from a steeper decline.
It's definitely a band-aid on his band-aid on a damn leak, right?
Exactly. But what I would say is our decline with Bielsa was practically immediate. So we actually got a lot more. There was a lot less toxicity because even when it was going terribly and we conceded 20 goals in a month, we just wanted him to we didn't want him sacked. We wanted him to fix it. So it is the inherent difference between how we felt about him compared to how football treats people in general. Like, we weren't sitting there after every game going, this ain't good enough, get Bielsa out. We were like, please, Marcelo, please consider playing a bit more defensively. Please think about it. And then not just think about it, do it, because we don't want you sacked. but he stuck to it and he got sacked.
Yeah. Stuck to his principles, just like Wenger, really. Just didn't change.
Because he believes that's how football should be played. Like, I wholly respect the man for being like, you know what? If this gets me sacked, it gets me sacked.
Yes, his principles,
He's on
right?
only, he's on 1 year contract anyway. So all we had to do was pay up like the last 4 months of his contract. Like, in theory, it was the easier decision to sack him because we were only paying him for 4 months of work.
Principles, man. But absolutely, I love Bielsa. I mean, like, what a character and tactical genius. I mean, what he's done in his career, you know, it's amazing what he's done. You know, absolutely amazing guy. It's a shame it went the way it went, but that's it. You know, everything comes to an end, unfortunately, doesn't it? That's the thing. You know, nothing's going to work forever. It's like with Liverpool. You know, we're going to see with Klopp now whether it still works. You know, can he adjust? Can he make changes? You know, it's because these things don't last forever. Unfortunately, you have to be able to adjust and change things around. You know, that's what the best do.
Yeah. All right. So let's go in. There were some more questions here, and I think we already answered this one as far as Barcelona. I mean, they are
sticky yellow. As I was saying, those sticky yellow notes with an IOU on them. That's like I said to Tom before we went live.
Yeah. No, and you know, and this is one of those things where I think it's hurting. Once again, it's hurting football. These types of things, the way this is being glossed over, right? I mean, they might pay up all their bills, or they might write them off.
Again, so what are FIFA doing, and what are UEFA doing in terms of? I mean, financial fair play was a bit of a joke, you know, because when it actually came to a big club actually being charged with a financial fair play injunction, Manchester City, they managed to just appeal it and get out of it, because it was about having the best lawyers and obviously having some influence behind the scenes as always, but they managed to get out of it, which was actually quite ridiculous, because when you look at what actually was happening and the evidence that was there, it was quite clear that they were breaching financial fair play. But the Court of Arbitration in Switzerland, all of a sudden, no, they had to use different criteria to prove it. I mean, what kind of bullshit is that? It just shows you how terribly corrupt and awful things are at the highest level, and that there is no real accountability at the highest level. And so FIFA, they want to change the financial fair play now and make it just a straight, okay, you have to use a maximum of 70% of your revenue. That's what they came up with last year. That's supposed to be the new rule that's supposed to go into effect. But how do they actually enforce this rule? You know, that's the thing. I mean, how can Barcelona, get away with billions in debt? I don't get it.
It'd have to be based on your accounts that you legally have to publish the previous year.
Yeah,
so you'd be going off the previous year.
70% of your revenue.
Yeah,
you're allowed to spend a maximum of 70% of your revenue on transfers and wages. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Personally, I'd be fine with that. That doesn't sound unreasonable. Like, that's managing sustainable business. That's fine. The thing about financial fair play, I think people don't realise, though, a lot of it is, it's not actually designed to keep the top clubs in line. It's designed to keep the not wealthy clubs from trying to challenge the wealthy clubs, failing, and then having no money.
But that's completely against what it was designed for, wasn't it?
It exists because Leeds lost 40 million and then dropped like a stone. That's the reason financial fair play exists, is because we lost money because we didn't qualify for the Champions League back when it was only 3 places. So we finished 4th, but we needed 3rd. But 1 point fucked us for nearly 20 years. And then basically dropped into the Championship, dropped into League One, and clawed our way back up. But
your biggest problem was Peter Ridsdale, to be honest.
Well, yeah. Our biggest problem was, because I've seen people like blaming our manager, David O'Leary, Arsenal legend, your highest appearance man, obviously. But people are going, oh, this is David O'Leary's fault. Like, if David O'Leary walks into the chairman's office and goes, will you pay 20 million for XYZ player? And the chairman says yes, even though the chairman knows we don't have the money, that's not David O'Leary's fault, because the chairman could turn around and go, "No, we can't afford that, David," and that'd be it.
Chairman, I was just saying, David O'Leary, the manager, doesn't control the money.
No, basically David O'Leary kept turning around and going, "Oh, I need a third choice striker. I want to have 3 strikers to choose from. We'd go out and buy one." But just say no. Just say, do what you did 3 years ago. Pick another one out of the youth team.
Yeah.
We had a transfer. I want to say this is true. I don't actually know if it is. It's been debunked as true, but it's one of those where you wouldn't want to admit if it was true. But anyway, we basically signed a player called Seth Johnson for about 7 million from Derby County, and he had played 1 game for England at the time. It was like a left-sided, like he'd play left back or left wing.
He was a very talented player. I know many players. I know many teams wanted him. Many teams wanted Johnson.
And we basically went 7 million to Derby, a lot of money at the time. And apparently he was waiting to speak to Peter Ridsdale, the chairman of Leeds United, and his agent turned around to him and went, "If you can get 20 grand a week, you have done well. We have done well in this negotiation. I advise you, if they're going to say an amount, they're probably going to say 15. We can ask for 25. If we can get them to agree to 20, we will do very well in this." Seth went, "All right, yeah, 20 grand a week sounds lovely," sort of thing. Sits down with Peter Ridsdale, and Peter Ridsdale, first line that comes out of his mouth is, "We are prepared to offer you £40,000 a week." Seth Johnson went, "Thank you very much." The agent went, "Thank you very much. I'm going to get my 10%. See you later."
Yeah.
And he spent most of his time at Leeds United injured.
Yeah, he's got a lot of injuries, didn't he? Yeah.
Yep.
But he was a very good player when he wasn't injured and before he went to Leeds.
We apparently spent £100 a month on goldfish food. for Peter Ridsdale's outside his office, not actually in his like in the reception area of his office, £100 goldfish food. Now, I've not seen what that fish tank looks like, but for spend £100 on food, that thing had better been fucking exotic.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry about story time with Tom.
Yeah.
I love talking about
Gunnervet likes it.
Peter Ridsdale was a nutcase, so he still is.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I guess I don't know.
Buy the dream.
Yeah. I don't know if you have anything to say to this one, Sam. I think I know what you're going to say, but this one about FFP and Arsenal.
That's what I'm saying. Financial fair play is not fit for purpose, is it? The one time it's actually supposed to have done something with Manchester City, they just appealed it and that's it. And it's all disappeared. Absolute joke.
I kind of feel like when Arsenal made their move into the new stadium for financial, the financial positives of it, and then the league and the way the money and the TV rights and all of that improved. To me, that should have meant it was an added bonus now to move to the stadium, not a. It seems like it keeps getting turned into, well, we moved it into this new stadium, and then everybody else got the equal amount of money. So then it didn't benefit us anymore. And it's like, well,
this is something I think many Arsenal fans, especially younger ones who weren't around really when the stadium actually was in early planning stages, but got to remember that this stadium was in early planning, like in the late 90s, and back then, there was no Abramovich, there was no Qatari, groups, buying clubs. So the idea was, and it was a perfectly valid idea. Highbury, you couldn't expand on Highbury because of all the limitations in terms of laws and everything, building laws and zoning laws. So
in the middle of a row of houses.
It was basically, it was either, you can't compete on that revenue. You can't compete with the 60, 70,000 Old Trafford's, Liverpool expanding to 50,000, all this, we couldn't compete financially. So going to a 60,000, stadium where we know we could get the highest prices in the country. Basically, that was the product we were delivering. It was a no-brainer, and that's what it was. And it was meant to give us the revenue to challenge all the big clubs in the world. And it does. If you look at the revenue itself that stadium, a match day brings in when it's full up and it's all going full flow, that stadium brings in just about the most revenue out of any football club in the world. So it does serve its purpose. But then, like you say, Gary, unfortunately, with the introduction of Roman Abramovich and basically Middle Eastern oil money owning football clubs, all of a sudden that just becomes a little bit of cherry on the top of the cake, because most of the money then doesn't come from there, which it did in the old days. You'd get most of your money would come through match day revenue, and then you'd have sponsorship and other things on top, merchandise and that coming on top. But now the money comes through the foundations that are behind the owners and the foundations that are behind the clubs, and that's it. The revenue then is just a tiny little cherry on top, unfortunately, and that is what screwed us completely when we moved to the Emirates. So all of a sudden we were behind everyone when we moved there, behind Chelsea at least, and then Manchester City came in very quickly, and then that was just the way it was. But then what we've done since then, of course, is where we've dropped the ball, because Kroenke and them, who have the money to compete, decided they didn't want to use the same amount of money in the same way, did they? So, yeah, early on.
I hear that. Yeah, so that's our little Barcelona segment. And got a couple more questions here. What do you guys think Arsenal can improve their transfer dealings? Every window is the same mistakes. There's a yes and a no to that, because get your business done early, and I think we've shown them we can do that. Have a plan. It sounds like we can do that, because Vieira, to me, sounds like a plan. That's who they wanted, and they got it done, and nobody was even thinking about the player, right? And maybe they get it.
Yeah. That's the thing. Why did it stop?
How can I improve their transfer deeds? I've got an idea.
No,
I know how you can improve.
The thing is, the question I want to ask is, why did it stop? We got everything. We got so many things done early, like we look really good, and then all of a sudden it just stopped. Like, what are we waiting all these weeks for now? I just don't get it.
I'm with you. I mean, like you said, if you can find a Gabriel like that, and both Gabbies, right? Both Gabbies that we got, nobody knew of them. There's a way that they did that, and now everybody's like, looking at those players thinking they're good, right? If you can do that, then you can find players in every position on the pitch where you need help, and we don't do that. So maybe Vieira is one of those type of players. I think all the players they brought in has been really good, but I kind of felt like you said, the plan is to get somebody like a Zinchenko or a Lisandro. Get one of them done, because it sounds like we could have done either one of them. We could have done Lisandro early, or we would have figured out it wasn't going to work. It dragged on too long, and then we had to go with Zinchenko, which sounds like he wants to play for us. And isn't that what Arteta says he wants? He wants players that want to play for us. And so Zinchenko sounds like a player who wants to play for us, right? They're going to work out, hopefully, the money part of it, and then that one's done. Tielemann's been sitting around. And, people say, well, how are you going to fit them all in? I'd rather have the problem of we've got too many players. How are we going to rotate them around as opposed to
the squad? The squad. Have you heard of that?
We need to be able to rotate our players around. How many times does anybody say, look at the City bench? They could play all 11 and still compete in the league.
Yep.
If that's how you look at it, then why can't Arsenal do the same, right? I know, Tom, you had something you wanted to say?
Okay, guys, I've crunched the numbers, and I know how you can improve your transfer dealings. I've worked it out. I mapped it out. I've got my pen. I wrote it down. And basically, what you need to do is you need to build a time machine. You go back, you abduct Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, Zidane, Roberto Carlos, and some Paolo Maldini possibly. And that's how you can improve your transfer dealings. Because I don't see what else you can actually do realistically outside of something that is against the laws of science, nature, and humanity.
Good idea, Tom. Very realistic.
And there you go, everyone. So get your time machine, your hot tub time machine, whatever it is.
Yeah.
and go back in time and get your players. You know.
Because I would use the time machine. I'd go back in time. I'd go, what you're about to offer Seth Johnson, don't do it.
Go to Peter Riesdale.
Yeah. Here's another question from the assembled. I know that there's a lot of back and forth going on between Gunnervet and Why Not, and we like to see it. Just keep it, keep it nice, because you're not going to agree. You two aren't going to agree on. You guys aren't going to agree. So that I like that. That's fine.
Little spice can sometimes be nice.
There you go. Here's a question: does anyone think that the Cronkies are stopping Arteta from doing the right thing? Since Arsenal have moved to the Emirates, we've been unable to put a competitive squad together. Thoughts of any?
Well, I can answer that. It's simple because we know for the first 10 years we were at the Emirates. What we weren't told, this is where the big lie comes from that pisses me off and pisses the supporter base off, is because we were told that when we moved to the Emirates, I'd say we're going to be competing with the big boys. But what they didn't tell us was actually that was rubbish, because the Cronkies at that time didn't want to put all that money in. They wanted to make sure that the money was going into repaying the stadium. They were paying a lot more back on debts than they were giving money to us. And the money we were actually be giving for that very much. So we couldn't compete at all, big boys, in terms of transfers at that time. And we ended up with fucking, Frimpong and Aladier and fucking God knows Shamak and Julio Baptista and all these guys in our team who we were supposed to be told were brilliant, but they weren't. They were all dog shit. So, and that's what Wenger worked with. And even with that, okay, the Premier League was less competitive at that time. Agreed. But even with that dog shit and Dross in the squad, he managed to get us into the Champions League, which is still fucking brilliant. Anyway, so the reason, it was because a lot of the money was being repaid at the stadium debt, and now most of that debt is repaid, and we're in a much better place financially, in terms of debts and everything in the club. All of a sudden, the Cronkies have decided to open up the taps a little bit more and put a bit more money into the team, so to speak, the last few years. And unfortunately, it's coming very late. It's coming very late, compared to what should have been coming all the time since we moved to the Emirates. And it's a shame. It really is, because if Wenger was actually given a nice transfer kitty, maybe we could have seen something very different. Maybe we could have really competed with the big boys, but we were always short, because that, Wenger said so himself. The restraints were always there, unfortunately, while the stadium was being repaid. So yeah, we were lied to by the club when we were told we're going to move there to compete. What they didn't say was the first 10 years you're not going to compete, you're going to struggle, and then we're going to put more money in after about 10 years, and then not realizing during that time Manchester City and Chelsea are just way ahead of everyone, and we've been struggling.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you. We'll go into the chat real quick. Let's see. We'll finish up here. Oh, you guys are just finishing up your conversation, and we just talked a little bit about the Emirates work here. And this is, Henry was awful in his first 11 games. Yeah,
it's true. It's another thing I've wondered. Before social media, like, would Henry survive in today's game? Would the Arsenal fans have accepted him basically not being very good for his first 10, 11 games before he started scoring and started really, taking off? He really wasn't good for his first 9, 10, 11 games. Would the Arsenal fans have accepted that today? That's the thing. Social media has changed our perception of players so much. It's like there's no patience anymore. There's no understanding of some players take time.
He wouldn't have made it past 5 games without getting abuse, let alone 11.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
even Bergkamp took a few games, didn't he? Even Bergkamp took 4 or 5 games before he started showing his real quality. Some players have to adapt. This is the thing. They come from a different league, come from a different culture. you're not going to, hit the ground running all the time. It's, and now people with social media, we just have no time. There's no, we expect everything to be, maximum quality from day one, and it's just not. You can't. It's not realistic, is it?
Yeah. Two things that I find quite interesting. I think sometimes us as fans or as a football community underestimate how hard it must actually be to come in from outside the Premier League to play in it, because it's so significant. It's the peak of football in every metric in terms of the speed of play, the stamina required, because there's no real let up in games. Like, even when games are shit, they're shit because both teams are cancelling each other out. Because if you drop off for half a second, you can see the goal.
Yeah.
I mean, because anytime you watch any of the other leagues and you see how much time they have on the ball before a defender even gets close to them, you're like, oh, that's not going to work.
Well, you can see
that's not going to work.
It's so the Premier League is a very special, unique league, like Tom says, in terms of all the metrics. We are top of all the metrics, but the thing is, you see, some unknown player from Portugal or Lithuania. I'm basically, for argument's sake, can come into the Premier League and just be amazing because something just clicks, right? But then you look at these players who we expect to come in and be great from day one because they're so good players. For example, the likes of Timo Werner, the likes of Kai Havertz, the likes of what's his face? I can't remember. There's Thiago Silva. He had a long wobbly period as well. Thiago Alcantara at Liverpool. He came in and all of a sudden he was dog shit for a while. Now he's come back to his best because he's had to take that time to adapt. But look at the likes of Kai Havertz, Timo Werner. These guys were absolutely smashing it in the Bundesliga, especially Kai Havertz was like the number one player in the Bundesliga, besides Haaland and Lewandowski, a couple of these others. But then he comes to Chelsea and he does fuck all. He just he managed to score in the Champions League final. But apart from that, he basically did fuck all, for a long time. And you still argue he's not doing the greatest performance-wise. But he was like the number one player in Bundesliga besides Haaland and Lewandowski. And, and you just see, the Premier League is so difficult to come and play in and adapt in. Because like you say, Tom, you just don't get the time. You don't get the time on the ball. You got to have more power. The tackles are harder. And the defending is much better. The level of defending is much better. You don't get the time to get a shot off and get what you need, get done what you need to get done. And then at the other end, you get punished. If you got a good striker against you, that's it. So it's the Premier League is really tough, and players do need time. And unfortunately, these days with social media and everything, we don't give players time, and no one seems to take that into account. That you're coming from a different league and a different culture. They just expect you to come straight from the Bundesliga and the first season you're going to bang in 30 goals. It's just not realistic.
Yeah. I mean, I take it back to when I first saw that we bought Tierney, and everybody said, how good he was, and he came in injured, and then I think he came in and played. The first time I saw him play, he played, I think, towards the end of the game, and I was like, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, he'll be fine if he can stay healthy, and that's been the only problem, right? He came in, he was injured, saw him play for whatever 10, 15 minutes. I was like, all right, that's going to work. And we just can't keep him on the field. So, I mean, sometimes you can see it, and it's good to vet them in on the pitch. I think we like to do a lot of vetting in practice, and that's not going to work. You bring in these new players, you spend a lot of money on them. Vieira should get to, if we need certain things, he should be, for the money you're spending, he should be coming on the pitch at some point, right? Erdegaard's done all he can for the game. We need some fresh legs. You bring in Vieira, right? If that's who he's competing with, because that's what by paying that much money, you're saying he's worthy, and you spent similar money on Erdegaard as well, right? So to me, they're equal in terms of the worth that you put on them. So we should have the healthy competition everybody talks about, and looking forward to that. But yeah, the Premier League is the tops, as you guys say, and you should treat it like that. And I think the patience, and I think also the manager also keys into that whole thing. If Klopp brings in a player versus Arteta brings in a player, you know, a lot of people, as much as they talk about Grealish, they don't talk about Grealish, right? Because the system is so good and it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah, no
But
one's
if
talking about
Arteta,
Grealish. The guy's done fuck all. He's done fuck all for City since he's been there.
yeah,
But no one talks about that.
I mean that's got to be that when they talk about busts, what does it look like? It looks like that, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
but because they still won the title, so it didn't matter.
No, but I'm saying it's a bust, right? When you talk about the
No, looking
biggest
at Jack
bust, right?
Grealish,
It's
what he actually
it's
took
100
City to.
mil for nothing.
It's heading towards a bust.
But
Yeah.
no, but it already is.
If he comes out tomorrow and gets comes out next season and gets 20 assists and 8 goals or something, everyone's going to be like, that's respectable. Because keep in mind, you don't get as much opportunity in that man's team, in Pep's team. You are literally you're in the only player in that team who is 100% nailed on to play when he's fit is De Bruyne. Yeah. Man City's most expensive player is just another part of the rotation system because that's just how it is. Pep's the
I kind of
star.
feel like Kyle Walker, if he's healthy, he plays because I think they miss him more. I think sometimes in De Bruyne. I mean, we saw that, right? Walker gets hurt, and I think that basically, I mean, that's how important I think he is as De Bruyne is in the middle of the pitch on that back line because I think we saw a little breakdown when he had to come out in the match when they lost both of them in the same game. I think, right? That kind of hurt them.
Why not ask a great question? The last the last comment that's made, it's a great question. Is the defending better now? I'm assuming it's now versus 1995, 2005. I'm going to slightly change it. I'm going to say take away 2005. I'd say now compared to 1995. And the reason I'd say defending is better now is not taking the elite defenders of 1995. Like, I don't know, your Paolo Maldini, say, that's not in the Premier League, but like your elite, your top Man United centre backs in like Pallister or whatever, I would say the bang average defenders in 95 are not as good as the bang average defenders in the Premier League for now, for the simple reason, defending now, you have to be a complete footballer. In 1995 was only 3 years removed from the back pass rule. In 1991, for example, the very second you get in trouble as defender, you just knock it back to your goalkeeper and he'd pick it up. And you was allowed to do it. But if you actually see when the back pass rule first comes in, football it was chaos because footballers didn't know what to do. Defenders didn't know what to do because they just grew up their whole life just give the ball back to the goalkeeper. Even if you remotely sniff trouble, give it back to the goalkeeper and he'll pick it up and you start again. Now recycling the ball is so much more dangerous because everyone plays out from the back, but everyone presses as well because they know you're going to play out from the back. So you've got to have more awareness because you can't just go back to the goalkeeper knowing they're going to pick it up because they can't pick it up. So now you're putting your goalkeeper under pressure. I just found it a fascinating question.
That's true. You make a very good point there. Very good point. I think defenders, in terms of the actual art of, let's say, the art of tackling and making a tackle, I would argue that they were better back then because you would actually make more proper tackles. But nowadays, they're more athletic. You've got to be quicker.
Yes.
The players are so much more quicker, pace, reaction, everything, that you have to be a much more of an all-round athlete and a quick athlete in defense.
Yeah.
Because all the major forwards anyway are so quick, reaction-wise, pace-wise, everything. You got to be a real athlete to be good in defense now. And that's not just to be able to tackle them; it's to be able to keep up with them and follow their movements. So it's a lot more athletics and movement based now, isn't it, in terms of defending than in the old days? It was just marking and kicking being able to tackle, slide tackle at the right time your tackle, time your header, and that was it. Now you just, like I said, you just got to be such an astute athlete, you know, prime athlete
Yes.
to keep up with him pace wise and movement wise.
Like Assembled's asked Bruce, or I'm assuming he's asking who's better out of Steve Bruce and Rob Holding, right? But
Yeah.
that's the comparison I was trying to get away from, because Steve Bruce for 1995 was an elite defender in the Premier League.
Yeah.
He played in a team that, like, in 90, he won the league in 93, he won the double in 94, I think he won the double again in 96. So comparing him to Rob Holding's not because he's better than Rob Holding, but my point is Virgil van Dijk, for example, would eat Steve Bruce for dinner.
Yeah.
Because he has to be a better athlete. It's not just about putting the. Steve Bruce would be expected to put the ball in Rose Ed, whereas if Virgil van Dijk resorted, Steve Bruce was a great defender. That's not the point. But Virgil van Dijk, if he resorted to putting the ball into Rose Ed, he'd get roasted.
Yeah,
he'd have Graham Souness going, "Why can't he carry the ball?"
And another thing is, I think if you took Steve Bruce and you put him in today's Premier League, he'd be a complete, utter fucking failure. He'd be, I mean, he could tackle someone, he could maybe win in the air, but he wouldn't be anywhere close to any of these forwards. I mean, he'll be made minced meat of, absolutely minced meat, and trying to keep up with the game, pace wise, you know, play wise, and with how quick it goes now, playing out from the back, you know, how quick you got to respond to passes going diagonally.
He'd get the bands.
Completely eaten up for dinner. But if you put Rob Holding back then in '95, I think he would do okay. But Rob Holding's not a great defender. You know, he'll move better, but he wouldn't defend better.
Yeah, like I wouldn't consider them on equal footing in a comparison of time period. Like it would be better. More Bruce and Van Dijk or someone.
Yeah.
Because Bruce is one of the top defenders of the era that the question was.
Yeah,
like, arguably there are better. Like Tony Adams, arguably better.
If you put Steve Bruce into today's league, I think he'd be a complete mess.
He was in today's league as a manager, and he was a complete mess. No, that's not fair. That's not fair. I actually thought, I would say quality of defender is better. All round quality, as we've just been discussing. It's not just about getting the ball away from the goal now. You're expected to facilitate the attack. Like you're not now putting the ball out. Like in '95, your main role is to just get the ball out of danger, and then focus on winning it back and starting a move. You're now expected to win the ball and start a move.
Yeah, that's it. You got to play the ball out now. You got to find a diagonal. You got to find a diagonal 30, 40 yard pass. You know, that's what you got to do.
Football has become American football in NFL, in the sense that football is now you're moving the ball quicker, but through smaller phases of play. Like it's now not a long ball game. Like you're not throwing the ball downfield. You're advancing through passing moves at a time where you eventually, this might not be fair to say, but you're hoping to almost bore the other team into moving someone out of position, so then you quicken up. Like the change in pace is significant in the Premier League. A game can go from 0 to 100 miles an hour in a second.
Yeah, I mean, you see that all the time, right?
But you're expected to see it and stop it. Sorry, Dan.
Yeah. No, I was going to say you see that all the time, right? You see City play one of the teams lower in the table, and you're like, well, they're doing good right now, but can they maintain this for 90 minutes? Because City's going to do the same thing for 90 minutes, and eventually, like you said, they will wear down mentally, physically, and next thing you know, boom, goals scored. And sometimes it takes till the 90th minute, but it happens, right? They give themselves a chance. You see it all the time. I think it was at Burnley they played really good for like a half, but you knew it was just a matter of time, and I think they did pull out the win. But you have to be there's discipline, and then there's the mental fatigue of trying to maintain. I think at some point as a squad, you need to be able to do your thing, right? You can't just sit there and let City do what they want, and that's when they get surprised, right? When you're able to do your own thing in a game, City will, like any other team, will get surprised and you might get that goal that you need, and then they're in trouble because then you can just kind of sit back. But yeah, I kind of feel like I get you guys' points on the defending and stuff like that. But like you said, it's all about the athletes, and that's, to me, it's so they're better athletes, but mentally they're not better footballers, right? Because there's part of the game that they lose from just the athleticism because they don't need to work as hard mentally, right? We always talk about that,
Yeah.
Going like 110% in a match, like when you need to, and they don't have that these days, right? Because it's not kind of ingrained in them as it was back in the days. Right?
Yeah, of course.
You watch. I mean, I watched some of the old games, right? I think I saw some of the old games. I don't know, Sam, if you were on those, but the game consisted. They just kept going, right? There was no like lull. Like it was like ball turned over, and guess what? They just started attacking as opposed to, you know what, we're going to recycle the ball back to the goalkeeper, and now we're going to push it up. Now the ball turned over in midfield. Guess what? For me, you take advantage of that, right? If they turn all the ball in midfield, you take advantage of that and you attack. And everybody knows that we're attacking. So there's no like, well, we're missing. There's nobody to pass the ball to because we know we got the ball. Take advantage of it, and that's how you kind of surprise, especially the big teams, because they will eventually give you the ball. You just have to be able to, as a team and a squad, ready to take advantage of it. So, yeah. I definitely see that.
Well, back in the 90s, they played so direct. I mean, the ball was always going forwards. That there was no sideways or back or passing backwards unless you were absolutely pressed to do so. I mean, but most of the play, you could see the ball was just going towards goal. The goal you're attacking, that's where the ball went. Whether it was a long ball or diagonal ball, that was it. It was always forward movement. Today, it's a lot. There's a lot more build-up play. It's building up from the back and building up through the middle, and you backwards and forwards. Left and right. It's a lot less direct today. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is interesting. It feeds into what I was actually going to say while Gary was talking. Pressing was generally non-existent, especially in that time. Because, again, you just got so used to the ball. There was no point in pressing a defender in the early 90s because the ball would go back to the goalkeeper and he'd pick it up. Well, that's before 95. But so the second centre-back got the ball, you just shifted back because you knew it was going back to the goalkeeper and it was coming back out. So there was no point in pressing. Whereas now, pressing actually can force a situation for yourself. But the quality of the defending is what I find interesting about it is there are certain defenders, even in that time period, that would be elite now because there are certain footballers that they're just good.
Yeah.
They're at a level that would just be good in any situation. But I'm not talking about the elite footballers of 1990. I'm talking the quality as a whole, like just through the 20 teams in the league, the defending in general, compared to the defending in general now. And it's completely different. I say it's better now because of a lot of the things Sam said, the athleticism, a lot of things Gary said. But if someone turned around to me and said the opposite, then that's fine because I can't prove it. You're never going to be in a situation where defenders from now are defending against defenders from 1995. So it's an argument you can have, but you're never going to know who's right because you're never going to be in a situation to see it play out.
Yeah. You're right.
So it's fine. People can tell me in this comment section they're wrong. 100% fine. If they tell me they think Leeds are getting relegated next season, we'll have a massive fucking problem. No, I'm only joking. But
no, we talk about defenders, and then you also, if you can look at like some of the old tape on Henry, and you can see how defenders would try to bring him down, and even when they got to the ball, they got a foot on it. He still was able to control it back immediately, and so he could work. I mean, you see him playing now with defenders the way they play right now. They're not getting close enough to him to put any pressure on him. He'd just be running around him all day, right? It'd just be too easy, a healthy Henry in a 2022 game running around there because he had like 3 and 4 players attacking him. That doesn't happen too often especially with the way that the good teams play. There's always somebody around. So, yeah. So we are hitting we hit the 90-minute mark, and I think
Can't
this is a
stand
good
Thierry
time.
on me.
Yeah. Huh?
I can't stand Thierry on me.
Oh, you can't stand him.
No,
That's your face, right?
I'll sum up this controversial sentence with another sentence. That man could get out of bed and he'd have 2 goals on a score sheet against Leeds United.
Yeah.
It's just a thing. Like, I don't know what we did to him. Like, I didn't send him racist abuse. Yeah, he wanted to score against my team every time he played us. Fucking prick. Like, even when we're in the championship, it's like, Thierry, let us get to the 4th round for once. He's like, no, I'm going to come on in the 80th minute and I'm going to score my
Who was
comeback.
it? Who was he nutmeg to make look a complete mug? Who was it? That player
Probably
again?
all of them.
It was out by the goal, the corner flag.
But isn't that like a commentator or
Mills.
something, like a media guy?
It was Danny Mills, I think it was.
Yeah, they show a comment of him, and then they show that.
It's Danny Mills. He nutmegs him, and Mills comes out to pressure him, and tries to go in quite hard on him out by the corner flag, and Henri just nutmegs him the easiest way, and you could just see Mills just gives up and looks at the crowd like, I don't know what to do.
Do you know Danny Mills once got sent off against Arsenal for kicking the ball, one of your players? Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. We won a game at it was 2001, 2000, it was early in 2001, 2002, and he literally gets sent off because one of your players is on the floor and he boots the ball at his head. And he gets him square in the head. Brilliant. Brilliant. It's like, Danny Mills, you are a massive prick, and it hurts me that you are like a designated media reporter on, like, he'll go on like TalkSport in England, like, to give his opinion. It's like, you're not one of us. You fucked off, mate, when we had no money. Like, you fucked off on a contract where we were still paying you.
Yeah. Danny Mills was a horrible git. No one liked him. Yeah, his reputation preceded him. Let's put it that way. He was an absolute horrible twat. What I was going to say was another thing I noticed when I was looking back at some of these early games in the Premier League, they were played much harder. There was a lot more physicality in them. The tackles were much harder. There was a lot of nasty tackles, and they didn't even get a yellow card. And you can see the way fans moan on today about, it's a yellow. It's just say, why is he the same? Why is there consistency all over the place?
Card.
If they were on social media, these same fans back then, they would all killed themselves by half time.
Yep. Sorry, I think Gary was trying to end the show.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you have a question for the week before we head out of here?
Right.
You usually are prepped for this, and I know this was a last-minute road trip for you. So,
I usually prep for it on a Monday, Gary, but I
still holding the disc bottles.
You gave us one on a Saturday. It's White's in this thing. I thought maybe I'm wrong. I might be wrong about that.
I can do one. No problem. Give me a second.
You know what it was? I keep forgetting that I'm on. I don't have separate. I'm only using this one now. So yeah, it was one of my captions in the show setup.
I've got one. No problem.
There we go.
Who is the only player to be sent off in a World Cup match on their birthday?
Oh my God. Oh, that's too difficult. That could be anyone, for fuck's sake.
It literally could be anyone. I thought he was answering Danny Mills.
No, it wasn't. I clicked the wrong button.
It's not Danny Mills, but it would have been plausible because he's a prick.
Sent off on their birthday.
Yep.
Fuck me. Granit Xhaka.
You said in what kind of game again?
World Cup game.
It was in a World Cup game.
World Cup game. Okay. Oh. I have no answer. I have no clue.
I said Granit Xhaka, but it wasn't right.
All right, Mr. Tom. I think
the answer is Gianfranco Zola got sent off against Nigeria in the second round of the 1994 World Cup on his birthday.
Gianfranco Zola.
They were losing 1-0 to Nigeria, and I believe they equalised in the last minute and then went on to win it in extra time.
Yeah, and I don't think we saw much of Zola, did we? It was all Baggio, wasn't it? That tournament.
Yeah. Well, you didn't see much of him after that because he was serving the suspension for being sent off on his birthday.
Yeah, but didn't he? But he potentially could have come back for like the semi-final or something like that, couldn't he, or the final?
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't remember him playing that. But
yeah, no, it was the second round. No, Baggio took over at that point. Like, no, I'm going to drag this team to the final, where I'm going to proceed to do nothing except miss the penalty that fucked us.
Yes.
He didn't miss the last penalty, but he did miss. He was actually the first footballer, Baggio, that I knew as a reference, as in, like, if you put the ball over the bar from a penalty, you've done a Baggio.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sam, this is a question for you. I don't know. Is it
Gentile? Yeah, I remember Gentile. Yeah. Gentile. It definitely rings a bell. I remember his. Definitely remember that. It definitely rings a bell.
All right, Mr. Tom. Any words you got to say before we head out of here?
I have a couple.
All right.
Yeah. I'd like to thank Gary and Sam for allowing me the time and the absolute privilege to talk to the Arsenal fans with this sermon, a Leeds propaganda sermon. And it was a Leeds propaganda sermon. Let's not pretend it wasn't. And up the Leeds. Yeah. No, seriously, thank you for having me on. Thank you for participating, and thank you for entertaining me in the comment section with your spirited debate. Because let me tell you, I don't care which one of you were right or wrong. I just enjoyed reading it.
Yeah, it was getting low. It was getting a little fiery, a little testy there, but it was fun. Hopefully, it's all in fun. As soon as Arsenal starts winning, they'll be as they say, enjoying what they see. So here we go. And Sam, what say you?
What say I? I'll just say I just hope Arsenal get some transfers done now at least before the start of the season. I mean, I don't want them dragging until the end of the transfer window, the end of August. I mean, that's just, there's 5 games now, isn't there? 4 or 5 games in August already because of the way it's set up for the World Cup. So if we're going to be missing a player, all the players we need for 4 or 5 games, God, it's just not good enough, is it? It's just really not good enough. But just hope we get some transfers done now. Let's hope we can start the season on a positive. I suppose starts in 3 weeks now. See what happens. A friendly game tonight, as you say, against Everton. It's just the only thing. I only like friendlies because I normally like to see the youngsters get a go. But now it doesn't look like we're going to see any of that because Arteta doesn't like the youngsters. He just brings the deadwood that we're never going to play with. He'd rather bring them instead of bringing the young talent who might have a future. He wants to bring the players that never have a future. That's what he likes. So yeah, we're not going to see much of the talent tonight. We're just going to see a bunch of deadwood players stroll around there, like they actually give a shit, which they don't. And then we'll see a few of our better players in the second half. Anyway, it's better than just watching paint dry, I suppose. The British Open golf is finished by then anyway. Let's hope Arsenal start doing some business, I suppose. And thank you again for having me on. Thanks, Tom, for joining. Always a laugh to have a chat with you. And hope everyone in the chat has a nice evening.
Cool. And
sorry.
Yep,
one more thing, Gary. Sorry, because Sam mentioning that you're playing tonight. Leeds are also playing tomorrow morning. We're playing the mighty Aston Villa, former European Cup winners, in Australia, of all places.
Jesus!
Wow. I mean, I get the whole going on a tour, but like you said, playing teams that you play with all the time. It's not really for that, right? It's just to get a run out anyway. So why? Why? It doesn't really. The exposure is not the same, right? Because if you travel around and play that teams,
I have a theory.
The local team.
Yeah. I have a theory about this, and that is Leeds. They miss their Australian players so much the Mark Vidukas, the Harry Kewells. They miss them so much. I have to go back there now and try and get a few.
That is partly true. Basically, because Gary, we had an Australian contingent of players. We had about 4 or 5 Australian players in the late 90s. So basically, we built up a fan base in Australia, and so I think we're trying to tap into it by going back there occasionally to, obviously, because we know there's a fan club out there, but also so what I forgot what I was going to say about it. I know. I think we're playing Villa out there because it promotes the Premier League.
Yeah, Premier League promotion, and you might be able to get a few more Australian fans in there, eh?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah, and as Steve says here, everybody hit the likes and subscribe and all of that, and
yep.
Everybody, Sam and Tom, thanks for joining me on the show today. I know we had a lot of fun, got to chat, and it's we I think we do it well. So we enjoy that, and everybody in the chat that's joined us, the assembled, Dwtt, Why Not? Who else? We had Alex join us. We had Craig was in the house with us today.
And John, the Reverend John, was in for a little bit.
John joined us and said hello.
I like John.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. And I think I covered everybody there. But yeah, thanks for Ryan actually showed up for a little bit and said hello to us. So like I said, tonight I'll be on Ryan's show. We'll do the Everton watch along, and we'll see how that goes. And hopefully we have a lot to talk about.
Sorry, I won't ask what time it is. I'll ask it in the more easier way for myself. How many hours away are you doing that stream?
Yeah, it's going to be 5.5 hours. The game will be going. So 5 hours and 18 minutes from now. So midnight for you. It will be starting.
Understood. Fair enough.
Yep. So we'll be doing that. So we'll be back again on this show on Saturday. I think we play on Sunday. So, but we would have had a game on Wednesday that we can chat about. So that should be cool. We'll talk about that.
Are you doing a Monday night show, Gary?
Yep, Mondays are going on. I was just talking about this show. This show will be back on Saturday. But yes, the trip will be on Monday nights, 12:30 p.m. for most everybody in the UK, 7 p.m. for those on the East Coast over here, and around the world. I think in Australia it's 9:30 a.m. in the morning. So we had a nice show last. We had a nice show last.
I'm not one of those fake adverts where you put your hand up and go like, "Sir, how would I be able to buy one of these cough medicines?" And then you're like, "I'm glad you asked. You could buy this cough medicine for $5." Sorry.
That's true. Yeah, we did not script this. No. So yeah, we'll do the show on Monday. Last show was pretty cool. We had the Aussie Gooner on, and him and Tom had a good relationship going on throughout the show.
Like that,
so that's cool. So that was cool to have. I didn't know how it was going to go. It seemed like he was not too impressed that I had a Leeds fan on chatting away, but I think it worked out. We had fun. So we'll I'll try and get guests on when I can. I thought by having this show, I'll be able to get some additional UK fans, but we'll see as the season kicks on. Maybe that will happen then. But I like what we do here right now. Get to chat about whatever we want to chat about. And when the games come, it'll be also interesting because we can talk about the last game that's happening that day. Meanwhile, chat about whatever we want. So we'll do this again next Saturday, everybody. Thank you very much. And as I like to say, life is a journey. Don't waste the trip. Enjoy the ride. All right, everybody. And we're out.